Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to Wednesday Night Symbaroum. Probably, in fact, entirely the last Wednesday Night Symbaroum of 2024. How exciting / daunting. Um, we are only a few episodes into the Darkest Star, the third part of the Throne of Thorns campaign for the Symbaroum tabletop role-playing game, and we'll do a bit of a recap once the players are all out here. In the meantime, there's the usual nonsense promo stuff. There's a bunch of links down below. Everything you might expect to find there is probably there. At the moment, we're running two campaigns on a full-time basis. Symbaroum on Wednesdays and Master Thotep, the famed Call of Cthulhu campaign on Mondays. Obviously, those are both kind of winding down for the festive period at the moment. As I said, this is Symbaroum's last stream of the year, and I think, am I correct in saying? I'm sure people will nod or shake their heads on cam. I think Call of Cthulhu is happening this Monday. And I think it might be happening the following Monday as well, but I cannot remember. But I think it's definitely happening this Monday. So I think that will probably be our final stream of the year. We'll see. I'll find out. I don't know these things. Who am I? A guy with a Discord and a Twitch? No. So let's start bringing on the players. And once they're on, we'll talk about a little bit about what happened last time and where they are. And we're going to start, as we so often do, with Chris, who plays Theo, former infantryman and town guard turned reluctantly adventurous sellsword. Chris, how did you feel about last time? What with you not being here and everything?
Yeah, from what I've gathered, I missed. I had assumed that session was going to be a mop-up session, but it turns out I actually missed the second and third phase of the boss battle. There was some kind of emergency algebra going on behind the scenes to make sure I actually had enough hit points to manage everything. But I think we're all above board, and I'm really interested to see if my actual presence here has any bearing on things in the next couple of hours.
Yeah, I mean, if by emergency algebra you mean we forgot how many toughness you had, so just assumed you were full. When we calculated stuff, that's probably something we need to start doing as a group a bit better. But yeah, it all worked out fine in the end. And with that in mind, let's bring on John. John plays Sir Arendar, final noble son of the House Dar, and a bit of a dually chap, as you can probably tell from his lovely artwork by John. John, how's Arendar recovering from last week? Or you, really? Arendar isn't recovering. You might be.
Oh, Arendar's doing totally fine. He's totally fine. He's up and he's standing, and there is currently no evidence to suggest that he will be in any other state. Sure, he did fall into unconsciousness a couple of times, one through blunt force trauma and the other, I think, from being stabbed. But now those things have passed, and we just have the future to look forward to.
Yeah. I'm not sure he was that. I think he was just battered to the ground by one of the fire possessed. I could be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think if you were stabbed, it would have been by one of the giants, and that would have been probably more dramatic.
Very bad.
Yeah. Speaking of people who got stabbed by giants, let's bring on Stephen. Plays Alindra, young novice Templar, turned not young novice Templar. Stephen, how's Alindra feeling about her decision to not take armor into Indaros with her?
She is never going to take the armor off again, assuming that she survives the day. Like, she got to Indaros, she thought it's the big city, like it would be a bit weird to wander around the streets clanking around in armor. She was trying to fit in. I thought that it was going to be essentially a quiet day of admin and sightseeing. And I mean, she's seen some sights, right? And
sights were seen. Yeah, sights were seen and also felt through the shoulder. and down into the chest cavity.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Finally, of course, we have Askarai, our resident changeling archer and scout, as played by Sam. Sam, I believe you mentioned before the session, backstage, I guess, yeah, whatever. It was that Askarai was basically untouched by the last session.
Askrai is feeling really good about the fact he fights with a bow. That was a great decision. Absolutely no regrets.
Yeah. Feeling perky.
Yeah. I mean, he has seen basically all of his companions at some point get absolutely battered by something, whether it's a rock or set on fire or slashed by a giant. But
yeah,
everyone's
he's dealing
alive.
with that psychological trauma just fine, probably.
Yeah. I mean, at least Askrai hasn't shot any of his companions, so could be worse.
Yeah, as he so often does.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do a little bit of a recap for what's going on. So you're in the capital of Indaros in order to try and locate, or basically follow the breadcrumbs through to the location of the lost city of Symbar. All you really know now, currently, is that in the Lindarian ruins underneath Indaros is probably some kind of way forwards. But that is all by the by right now, because you have been investigating the Cathedral of Martyrs, the large sun temple in the capital, which has been bombarded by meteors, rather unexpectedly, at the biggest wedding rehearsal of the year, between the Sun Duchess Esmeralda and the son of High Chieftain Tharaban. You went to investigate. You found a whole bunch of people who seemed to be possessed by fire elementals. You variously knocked them out and or killed them. You rescued some children from some fire-possessed horses. You kind of failed to rescue Grandmaster Seldonio of the Order Magica from a large giant being who'd cut him up real bad with a sword, and were kind of there present to hear Seldonio's last words. You then proceeded into the cathedral, where you found the Sun Duchess Esmeralda alive. You managed to rescue her, although she is quite injured. And on leaving the cathedral, you saw more of those giant beings engaged in a kind of three-way fight with some of the fire-possessed and some panzars, the kind of Queen's elite knights who had arrived. You waded in yourself, or at least some of you did, until the fire-possessed were subdued. And also the giants were verbally subdued by another giant arriving, who the panzars seemed to recognize, who managed to talk them down. And now a kind of like hushed and tense peace has erupted in the square outside the cathedral. Do we think that's about right? I think that's about right. Okay, there we go. So, just to set the scene then, that this fight has just ended. All of you except for Elindra and Revelia were over near the fight. Elindra and Revelia are over by the walls of the Cathedral of Martyrs, having emerged from kind of a large rent in the brickwork or stonework. Elindra is still carrying the Sun Duchess Esmeralda, but I think we will check in first with those of you who are over by where the panzars are. The giants seem to be walking off towards the kind of fissure in the ground from which they emerged, and they're kind of standing around there speaking, and not particularly trying to keep their speech overly silent, but it doesn't matter because none of you can even remotely understand the language they are speaking in. Actually,
is this all three giants or the two? Okay.
Well, were there? No, there were three of them, weren't there?
I mean, there were two that came out of the fissure, and then one that came and like spoke to them.
See, I thought three came out of the fissure, but I could be wrong. Maybe no, it was just two. You are right. Yes, all three of the giants are over there. And you know what? Actually, who's rolling for Anton tonight?
I think it has been
Askarai?
me.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Give me a cunning roll, please. At I don't know, -2.
Okay, I'll need a 9 or less. I got a 5, so makes it.
Anton is not approaching the giants, but he's definitely got his head cocked and seems to be trying to listen to what they're saying. In the meantime, the rest of you, Arendar, Steo, Askarai, I think that's everyone, right? Are probably like recovering yourselves from this conflict. All of the fire possessed have been knocked out or killed. The Panzars are kind of like dismounting and sort of a couple of them are running over to attend to those of them who were badly injured during the conflict. But the leader of them takes a step towards you all, takes her helm off to reveal kind of shoulder length, curly blonde hair and somewhat grim expression. And she says, "Who will she? She's probably going to address Steo. Military people address Steo because Steo looks military." She says, "My name is Captain Livia Arabelle of the Queen's Panzers. Thank you for your help."
We did what we could. We got here just after the whatever the hell this was.
A big bloody mess is what it is. That Duchess Esmeralda.
Steel will kind of step aside and gesture.
You can probably hear this, Alindra.
Like I'm still holding Esmeralda, right? Like she's some strong words away from being at death's door again. So yeah, like it's, however, like I'm carrying her, we'll kind of like make eye contact and kind of nod and confirm that this is her.
Oh, thank Prios. Quickly, Sir Knight, bring her over here.
We'll come over.
The Panzer captain desperately kind of like takes her cloak off, which doesn't really do much, and kind of like finds rubble nearby that someone could be easily propped up against, and sort of drapes the cloak on the ground and starts kind of like calling for some attention from what appears to be kind of their group's medic. Esmeralda, for her part, is kind of going, I am quite well, Captain, as well as could be expected, thanks to these noble individuals. As she's kind of like, as you kind of like lean over and put her down on the ground. Please, Sir Knight, do not go. Captain, they are my heroes. They must stay. I wish them to. Well, may I speak to them? Perhaps alone. The Panzer captain kind of blinks, slightly surprised, and says, "As you wish, Your Grace. I will. We will try and attempt to set up a perimeter, but please call out if you need further attention." Anton has knelt by her side and is kind of like, again, kind of like working on her, trying to work on her leg, or at least bind it up a little better.
Does she look like she's about to say something? Or
yeah, I just like, because some of you weren't exactly stood there. I kind of would. Is everyone kind of gathering around Esmeralda then, or?
I think I will quickly warn the captain about the previous giant that went off in that direction.
She nods and says, "I appreciate that. Hopefully they will make contact with these as well. I don't know what it was I don't know what hold Ripe has over them, but Well, let us hope it sticks. I know you rolled last time to recognize him, Arendar, but like at the mention of the name, you realize that the giant who arrived, who you have heard of, usually termed like just a giant man, but when you see him, it like you've never seen someone even remotely this tall. Like he's taller than an ogre, or most ogres. This is the Queen's executioner. And you've heard many rumors about him, primarily that he just turned up one day and offered himself to the Queen's service. And the Queen was like, "The guy who can hold a really big sword seems like
Big
he's got a
dude."
good job."
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. I have more questions, but I would like to talk to the Lady Esmeralda first.
Of course. So, once you are gathered around, Esmeralda looks up at you all with one kind of like hand on kind of like Antom's back, kind of steadying herself as he's like winding bandage around her leg. Sirs, I mean it. You are my heroes, and I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that I would have died in that awful place if it were not for you. I find myself not only grateful, but also perhaps in further need. If you would indulge me. I can tell you what I remember, and I can tell you what I need. If you are in need of pay, it will be provided, and well. I trust neither the fools of the City Watch nor the ambitious nobles of the Royal Secretarium. The conclusions are always influenced by politics and self-interest. But this was someone clearly, even if I was not the primary target, I was intended to die here. And what was supposed to be the most glorious day of my life, my future husband, I wish to know who is responsible. You've already shown yourself to be more than capable. It will be a good long while before control is properly put around the square and around the cathedral. Before people with agendas trample over it and wreck anything that may be found. Please, I implore you, would you search the cathedral and the square for me? Try and find some information about who may have carried this out. I will owe you a great boon. And as I say, in addition, you will be very well paid.
Sounds like something we could do.
I don't think we could refuse someone in such a situation, my lady. I assure you, we are unfortunately very good at getting to the bottom of things.
I am sure. Please, as I say, you are my heroes. May I know your names?
I'll just kind of give Aaron Dara. This is your department, Bob. Look.
My lady, I am Aaron of the former House Dar. This is Steo, an infantryman a former infantryman and former sergeant of Thistlehold Watch. Your bold rescuers there are ladies Alindra and Revelia, and this is our Northman Ranger Ascarai, and of course our Theurg, Father Anton.
Why, you are the heroes of the sinkhole.
I did say we are very good at getting to the bottom of things, my lady.
Sinkholes,
Oh.
fissures.
For God's sake, Aaron.
The saviors of Thistlehold. And now the saviors of, well, this is wonderful. But please, I beg you, help me figure out what has happened. You saved my life, but someone tried to kill me. Please find out why I fell victim to such a fate. There are now a couple of watchman squads and additional soldiers kind of like arriving in dribs and drabs at the surroundings of the square. Every time someone arrives, the Panzer captain kind of like spurs. She's remounted and kind of spurs her horse over to them and like desperately is trying to get them to establish a perimeter. But the square is colossal. Like, it's very difficult to do so, but she's trying to station them at like various points around it. Esmeralda looks up again and says, "They will be here soon. Please, I want you to look first."
We'll do what we can, lady, of course. But can I also suggest that we make arrangements to get you out of this place to somewhere safe?
I will remain here until the security presence is enough that I may be escorted through the streets. But if you wish, one of you may remain behind to act as my bodyguard, but do not underestimate the politics of Indaros. I wish to stay here where a Panzer captain can watch over me.
Yeah, just kind of look to the others.
I think we should go.
Let's go and take a look now that the worst of it's over.
Tell you what, let's make it easy. Anton will stay and attend her and work some healing on her. Before you do depart out to carry about a bit of investigation, does anyone think they could have a healing roll from Anton that they haven't already?
Yes.
Arindar? Okay. I think you want to get on with this as quickly as possible. So but maybe he doesn't want to lay on hands because of the corruption here. I don't think he will.
Yeah.
Let's have a cunning roll and see and get him to use Medicus.
Okay. He rolled a 2, which is a success. So I think you roll a D6. I think he has Medicus.
Probably, yes. Does he have any herbal cures?
He does.
Okay.
Oh, I have one herbal cure left, actually. He can use mine.
Well, yeah, he uses yours, so that's a D8 then, isn't it? It punches it up by 1.
Yeah.
Is it, or is it? Hang on, because isn't mine a D8 and his is a D6 with her?
I think he might actually have novice of this.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Unless the character sheet I have has not been updated, but I think he's
okay.
Right.
Then it pushes it up to D6. Then
yeah.
Okay. Shall I roll the D6 or Anton?
You roll D6.
Okay. 2.
Okay. There you go. Anton attends to you for 2 toughness worth.
Excellent.
I just say this in case the stream is going wonky, but our StreamYard signal is very low. So
No.
if the stream is wonky, that's why, folks. But let us know. Okay. So as you are heading off, Anton is going to catch. Well, he's working on Arendar, so I think he'll do that. As he kind of like you stand up and he kind of like pats you on the shoulder to head off, he leans in briefly and says, "Those strange giants. They are speaking Symbaric, Arendar. Be cautious around them."
We will. Hopefully we don't encounter any more.
Okay. So, of the places of interest that you have viewed so far around the in and around the cathedral, there is the fissure itself, and the giant stood by it, of course. There is within the cathedral, there's several things you saw in there. The crater, obviously, and there was a number of passageways visible in the crater, including one that had light coming out of it. There were obviously a lot of bodies scattered around there. There's also Seldonio's body outside the front of the cathedral. I think that's it, really. I don't think there's anything more than that. Oh, and Theo, could you give me a vigilant roll at, let's say, +2, please? Hey,
Guess who's back?
Something occurs to you as you kind of like pace a little bit away from Esmeralda and Anton. You remembered the figure. So this wasn't last week. This was the week before. You were aware of a figure fighting some fire possessed over at like a more southern kind of part of the square, while you were all fighting the fire possessed, and you were, I believe, fairly convinced that they seemed like an elf. You glance at whereabouts they were, and you see that there is like a partially ruined building that has a corner of it that's still kind of standing. That's almost like pillar-like now, as it kind of stands up, and perched on top of that pillar is an elf wearing very elaborate and rich-looking clothing that has almost an Ambrian cut to it, but not quite. You've definitely not seen an elf wearing anything like that before. And he is perched on top of that pillar, observing what is going on.
We're being watched by the Queen's elf, I think. But we should, I don't know, we should take a look around this place, and I'll keep a loose eye on that one. Ascar, I'll watch where I look the next time I look up. But only you. Try and keep it subtle. Might need you to track them.
I did my best. Strange to see an elf here. Well, in some ways, maybe not in others.
Aaron, you know about the Queen's attaché, the ambassador? Is that even the right word? I don't know. I've heard rumors.
Ambassador is a fair word. Yeah. I just realized that Esmeralda should have given you a lot more information. So we're now going to you I'd said you only walked a couple of steps away, so it's fine. We'll do a flashback to 60 seconds ago.
We're going all blades in the dark at this.
Blades in the dark. Esmeralda basically told you the details of the wedding, because otherwise, how would you know what's meant to be there and what's not meant to be there, right? So she told you that she was, of course, at the cathedral to rehearse the upcoming wedding. The event was supposed to be conducted by the First Father, but her sister called the First Father and the First Theurg of the Cathedral of Martyrs to an emergency meeting at the palace. Consequently, the Queen was not present, though she was meant to be. The rehearsal was then instead held by an ordinary liturg. She does not remember his name, but he was apparently in charge of the practical arrangements of the ceremony anyway. Other participants were Thabor, her husband-to-be. They're both her and Thabor's bodyguards, of whom there were 4 of them, and Grandmaster Seldonio, who, along with the Queen and the First Father, was supposed to participate as a ceremonial witness. There were also a couple of low-ranking priests, as well as the cathedral manager and his 2 aides. She didn't know what role they were meant to play in the wedding, but assumes they were there to assist the liturg with the practical arrangements. So, yeah. But that will be useful information for you. So, maybe.
Oscar, I would ask, was there any sign that something had gone wrong, or was it just suddenly this rock fell?
I recall nothing suspicious, and honestly nothing of the attack itself other than a loud noise, light, pain, and terror. I'm sorry.
Was Fabor stood near you when the rocks fell?
Very close. I am certain he has been killed. He was crushed by the first impact.
Good. Sorry for your loss. We'll see what we can find out.
Okay. So where's our first destination? The cathedral itself? It will probably get safer as time goes on, as more that's going to fall in does fall in.
Yeah.
And you could certainly enter it and see anyway. Like the edges seemed fairly safe to work your way around.
I certainly think Ilindra's thinking cathedral, but I think on the way, she also wants to kind of suggest, like, Steo, I understand wanting to be subtle around this elf, but also we know that we're pressed for time. Like, if we have questions for them, is now not the best time to ask those questions?
What do you think, Oscar? I'm less inclined to trust elves in the city.
I'm about as inclined as I am in the forest, which is not a tool, but
this may be the closest that we've met to an potentially actually friendly elf, right? Like, if they're working for the Queen, we saw them fighting the fire possessed.
I mean, worth talking to if they'll talk to us. Nothing to lose, I feel like. May as well try.
Well, we bend our course there and bid them a good morning, or...
Yeah.
Elves appreciate subtlety as much as I desire it, I suppose. But it is worth a shot.
Okay. Are all of you going over to talk to the elf, or are we splitting the party?
I would be disinclined to split the party after the morning we've all had, in fairness.
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Ilindra and Revelia may well kind of hang back, though, in that sense. Like,
Sure.
try to give the people that are more likely to be speaking to the elves just a bit of kind of breathing space to go do that.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, then. As you approach, you see there are a number of kind of like groaning and slightly moving forms near the base of the pillar they are sat on. Appear to be formerly fire-possessed people. It looks like the elf basically managed to knock out everyone they were fighting with. And Stu, you remember seeing them surrounded by 10 or 12. And they essentially seem to keep all of them alive and knock them to the ground senseless. And now they're starting to kind of like regain their senses and stagger or crawl away in confusion. As you approach, I'm assuming Theo seems to be taking up the lead on this, but maybe accompanied primarily by Arendar and Askarai. As you approach, the elf quite blatantly stares at you, but doesn't address you immediately in any way.
How high up are they?
Maybe about, I don't know, 9 feet or so.
Okay. Not like way high up.
No.
Hello? We saw you in the fighting earlier.
And I saw you.
This was fine work. We didn't manage to rescue them all. Kind of Theo looking around at the previously fire-possessed.
I believed it was in the best interest of the Queen and her city were I to keep the possessed alive. He speaks Ambrian with less of an accent than any elf you've ever encountered before.
Were you a part of this rehearsal?
No. I have managed to secure myself a position in Ambria enough that relatively little ire is directed my way, but even so, an invitation to a royal wedding is not something I particularly anticipate. I am not the first elf you have spoken to, am I?
Not by a long shot.
We have crossed paths in the forest and outside of the forest with your kind before, mostly on favourable terms. Or at least not immediately hostile terms.
It is rare indeed. And what are you doing here now?
We are trying to see if any conclusions can be drawn about what caused this.
The cause. Exceptionally powerful magic. Tearing the sky asunder. And more powerful still to direct its fragments towards a specific target. Such extraordinary mysticism torments creation, provoking its wrath and vengeance. It can be seen here. The corruption. The damage. It is probably even worse at the place where the assailants performed this destructive deed.
Would such a ritual site have been close? Perhaps beneath this structure?
It need not be.
That would have been convenient. And what of the fissure? Is that related to this? Nothing good comes from under these lands, in my experience.
I do not know. I do not believe so. But rest assured, you are not looking for an individual. The power required to achieve the effect and endure the consequences can hardly be carried by a single soul. unless of an eternal or already corrupted nature.
And these fire possessed, are they a part of this corruption? Are they something else?
They are spirits of fire dwell above us. Did you know that? They were called down alongside the fragments, driven into the city, into these poor, unwitting folk. Even now, tens of them, hundreds of them more, will be running through your streets trying to set everything they can on fire. I imagine that is why your authorities are otherwise occupied.
And was it simple coincidence that brought you here to witness this event?
I was not that near, but I am fast. I was concerned both for the people here, for the creation, and because this incident will surely lead to further violence, directed as those portrayed as enemies of the Ambrian realm, the clan folk, the witches, and naturally, the elves. My presence here marks a tenuous ceasefire, and anything I can do to prolong that is of benefit to my people and those on the frontier of Ambria.
Well, then it seems our paths are are aligned at the moment. Matt, I do want to maybe, if I can, quickly glance and see if they're obviously wearing any kind of finger jewelry.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, you don't know to what degree all elves are in the Iron Pact or not. You have literally have no idea.
I'm getting all kinds of different colored flags from this particular one, and I'm not in my happy place.
He certainly talks about a lot of stuff as the members of the Iron Pact you've met have talked, using the same terminology, and you know that ultimately what his role is supposed to be here. Just from hearing about him, not like you haven't heard this from an elf or anything, but that he is an envoy from the elves to Queen Corinthia in an attempt to like stop them killing each other, and presumably you would have to imagine futilely attempting to keep more Ambrians out of Davokar, which would seem to align with the less aggressive members of the Iron Pact, but you simply don't know, and no, he is not wearing an iron ring.
Well, once again, great work in the melee. My name is Steo.
I am Elori, but you may have known that already.
I had only known you by rumor, not by name, but it is good to meet you.
I must return to my companions in the city. Their safety may be compromised. I advise you to take what knowledge you can from this place, but not to dwell here overlong. This place is tainted now. He stands up on the pillar. Forever. He takes a couple of steps back, and someone called him an anime elf in the chat, so I'm willing to lean into a little bit as he vaults backwards down off the pillar and kind of vanishes among the rubble.
Okay, well, thanks to everyone who talked me into that. That was productive. Elori.
Yeah, fairly upfront for an elf. Better than most.
I worried that whenever the elves are up front, they're being twice as cryptic, and we just haven't worked out how yet. Come on, we take his advice on being swift in here.
Okay, I believe it's into the cathedral we go then.
I was actually, before we go into the cathedral, I wanted to look at the body of Master Saldonio.
Okay.
I will say he said something to me before he passed, and I don't know. He may have something on him.
Okay. I'm just seeing and finding if there's anything on. Okay, you head over to where Saldonio's body is still lying. I'm going to say a couple of the city watch are now standing near it, and kind of like they haven't quite like taken the body into their possession, but they are stood relatively near it. They don't look like they're going to stop you taking a look, but maybe they'd stop you rifling through his pockets. Or at least you'd have to. You suspect you'd have to talk them into it. But to just if you, this is sort of to the way to the entrance to the cathedral anyway, and if you're sort of like glancing over, you see that he has the usual kind of Ordo Magica pendant. He had his staff with him, and he was dressed in his normal robes. He certainly doesn't look to be kind of carrying anything other than that. But if you want to investigate his body more thoroughly, then you're probably going to have to approach the city watch who are stood near him.
I'll give that a try.
Okay.
I'm feeling persuasive.
Sure. Well, when you not, yeah. The one of the watch, she kind of nods to you as you approach, and says, "Good work with the Duchess."
Thank you.
Is there anything we can help you with? We're just we found the Grand Master here, and we thought we should, well,
Guard over him.
Yeah.
Yes. I was unfortunately here as he passed. We were not in time to save him.
Rough business. She coughs from the dust still hanging in the air, as most of you are every 30 seconds or so. Don't think too much about that, and Ambria's relatively low-level healthcare.
It's fine. We've got a magic healer in our group. I was hoping to search the master's body. With your permission.
What? Why?
Oh, because as I say, he said I was here as he passed, in conflict with an incredibly formidable foe. I would like to see if there is anything on him, to see whether Master Sardona leapt to the defense of the realm or was targeted by this individual.
Right, and I mean, we saw what you did, but do you have any authority here?
I'm just pausing to think whether to reveal that.
I mean, you might have to if you want them to let you.
I will
That's
say
probably the only thing that's going to swing it, yeah.
yes. We have been asked by the Duchess to make sure everything is in order.
Okay, can you give me a persuade roll at +4?
+4, target of 15. 11.
Oh, all right then. Just I mean, we'll stand here if you don't mind.
Of course.
Okay, go for it.
I will pat him down and have a look through his robes, I guess.
Give me a vigilant roll, please.
That one's going to be less promising. That is an 8, which is over my target of 5.
Okay. You don't find anything on Grandmaster Seldonio other than his Order Magica pendant, a number of kind of like, what look like personal notes, admin notes, in a pocket, some keys. There's nothing that seems striking or untoward upon his person.
I will, for respect for the deceased, I will not probe too much further.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Guardsman.
Okay.
And then head into the cathedral, I guess.
Cathedral, then. Okay.
Yeah.
You all walk up the steps into the interior of the cathedral. The risk of collapse has definitely dropped. But I would like everyone who thinks they might be looking around at the dangers of the structure to give me a vigilant roll.
Pass.
Pass.
I don't know if I was supposed to roll for Revelia, but she passed. Elindra did not.
Okay. Did you say Ascarai failed, Sam?
Yep.
Wow.
What a 19.
Okay. Well, 3 of you passed, and you know what? You between the group of you identify 3 large damaged areas in the ceiling that look particularly dangerous. It may be possible to intentionally trigger these to make sure that you don't get caught. If you have to be underneath them, to make sure you don't get caught out by them. You think, honestly, an arrow would probably do it. They're like patches of rock and stone that are hanging on by a thread.
Okay. Ashray will get his bow out and give it a go. If the area is clear.
Okay. Well, there's one of those things is between you and kind of the main altar. You fire your bow, and a great clump of stonework drops down with a crash. Yeah.
Okay.
You can't be certain that you saw everything. But I'll tell you if, like, you're approaching another one of the areas. Yeah.
Okay.
So where's the first place we're going in this?
I'm thinking of heading back towards where we found the Esmeralda, because that is presumably near where Fabor might be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think trying to find Thabor first seems a reasonable start.
That's fair. And that would be near the I'm trying to get the right word for it. The Sun Podium, is that what they called it in the previous thing? I just want to double check I'm using the right terminology. Yes, the Sun Podium. So you head over, kind of edging past the crater again, and kind of like it looks exactly the same as it did before. As you approach the Sun Podium, let me just make a quick roll for something. Okay. As you approach the Sun Podium, you can see that the Sun Podium seems to be where one of the primary places that the meteor struck. Obviously, the primary place is the crater, but a great deal of material like crashed down directly over the Sun Podium itself, presumably where Esmeralda and the kind of wedding party were standing. On the the half of the sun podium that's absolutely covered in rubble, you can see a number of individuals kind of buried beneath the rubble. And it's either going to take you'll have to like clamber up onto the sun podium a bit more, and it's either going to take some like careful investigation of like the body parts sticking out from the rubble, or actually removing some of the rubble in order to check the identities of those people. You're fairly sure at least one of the people under the rubble is wearing Theurg's robes, as you might expect.
I think that Elindra is going to realize that time is of the essence and will start moving rubble, and I assume Revelia will help.
Okay.
To the extent that we can move much of it quickly.
Sure. Okay. And I'm not going to make you roll for that. Most of the rubble is like not huge, you know, it's the distance it fell from rather than the size of it that crushed these people. You uncover 4 dead bodies under this rubble. One is an older man in quite sort of advanced Theurg's robes. There are another 2 who look like younger novices of the Sun Church, and there is a young, handsome man with the long hair often worn by the clan folk. He is wearing kind of clothing you would associate with, certainly clothing similar to that which you saw on Karvosti. Askarai, you can remember it. You can recognize it as clothing fairly typical of, is it Yerevan? Tharaban's clan? Yedisa, I think. Yeah, I think you're right there. I'll just double check it. Yeah, Yerevan is a city-state in Civ 5. It's the same thing, right? I just want to double check. Yeah, Yedisa is indeed. Yeah, because it's the clan between you and the Baega, the Gadinja and the Baega. Yeah, Yedisa is Tharaban's clan. You would be extremely surprised if this were not Tharbor.
Okay, that's what I will say. This has got to be him.
Oh,
Definitely from the same clan. This is...
Okay. Someone should search him. I assume he's like unambiguously dead, Matt. Like,
oh, everyone, all 4 of these bodies are very, very, very dead.
Okay,
and will have died very quickly and to an extreme degree. A couple of them, their bodies would probably not be recognizable to people who knew them.
Askrai will search him unless anyone particularly wants to do it.
Okay. Then give me a vigilant roll, please, Askrai.
Okay. That is an 11, which does make it.
Okay. You find a number of things on Tharbor's body, but none of them leap out to you as things that warrant further investigation. He has kind of a number of trinkets, which you would again associate with someone of Clan Yedisa. He has a number of kind of coins in his pockets, and a number. He actually even has a couple of gemstones in a pocket. He has what seems to be like it's like a ceremonial. Some of the clan folk and the Yedisa certainly practice this if they're going to be in a place where they shouldn't have weapons. They will often carry a kind of ceremonial, very short blade, and he has one of those at his hip. there's really not much else.
I think Ascari will leave all of that, won't take any of it, but will say he doesn't have anything on him that stands out as out of the ordinary.
Lindra's going to do a potentially silly thing at this point because we're stood. This is kind of the center point of the cathedral, right?
It is
quite a central space.
Yeah.
I think Elindra is going to try and use witch sight on the place. The last time she kicked that off was in, I think, the square outside. My notes here just say everything is on fire.
Yeah.
So she's kind of expecting it to be a bit overwhelming again, but I guess she's looking to see if there's something different or stronger in any particular direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing I would say is that I believe from the last time you will have had to roll like a D4 corruption.
Yes, so it's normally 1 corruption. I know that it would be.
I would say you won't have lost corruption.
Oh, interesting. Because I have reset temporary corruption after the end of the scene in which you did that.
Okay. Well, this is still technically the same scene.
Okay.
And more to the point, it's the area you're in.
Okay. I don't know what corruption
rolling another D4 that might be fine for you. I don't know what. I have a suspicion you roll 2. I think I remember you rolling 2,
right.
but I could be wrong. If going up to temporary corruption 6 would be a real bad thing for you, I'm just saying you might not want to do this.
Corruption threshold is 6.
Then you'd be fine.
Okay,
just don't push it higher.
Then that is what Elindra is going to try to do.
Okay.
So
whatever roll you make for witch sight, please.
It's a vigilant roll against the discreet of the location, whatever that.
Then take a +5.
Okie dokie. Yeah, she needed 15. She got exactly 15.
Okay, the area is like very similar to how I described it before. It's like almost trembling and vibrating with a feeling of wrongness in the air. Again, you have that sensation that the world is on fire around you. The only exception to this at all is a tremendous tense stillness that seems to be emanating from the crater.
Okay.
And not purely just like you feel like it's emanating from somewhere within the crater, not the crater itself. Does that make sense? So like you don't think the crater has that.
Something under it or around it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I also rolled the D4 for that, so Elindra is on 6 temporary corruption. Roll the 4.
Okay.
Right up against the top.
I would say let's roleplay that as like perceiving this via your witch sight. It feels overwhelming. It's like got you. Your hairs are rising on your arms. It's got you on edge. Yeah.
I think visibly kind of reacting to that. Visibly kind of unsteady.
Yeah. So with that in mind, we've got 3 other people here. Askarai's been looking over the body of Tharbor. Is anyone else like, or is Askarai looking at the other bodies in this particular pile of rubble? Are you looking for other bodies elsewhere? While Elindra is kind of slowly trembling and staring into the crater?
I think Askarai would be interested to see what the priest has on him, especially after the story about the swapping of the priests.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll probably generally look over these bodies, see if he can identify exactly who the other couple are, and just have a look at what is on the priest.
Okay. So you're just kind of generally looking at the bodies, and then you might investigate a bit further. And if you do, your first port of call is the senior, who is clearly the senior liturg. Yeah. Did anyone actually note down or remember the people who are meant to be here?
I did.
Great. Okay. I'm not asking you to for that information. It's the kind of thing you pass out as a GM, and then people kind of go, "Oh, was that important?" later, and that's all.
Yeah.
So, can you give me a vigilant test, please, Ascarai?
That is a 1.
Okay. As you approach the other bodies, kind of clambering over the rubble, something immediately leaps out at you. The bodies of the senior priest and the kind of like male novice look thoroughly covered in rock and stone in a way you might expect. But the female novice, the way in which the rubble covers her body and the distribution of dust on her clothes suggest that she moved or was moved after she was buried by rubble. Like,
Okay.
she doesn't look like she was where she was struck.
Okay, someone's messed with her body, like searching it or moving it or doing something to it.
Or she managed to crawl out. Like, it'd be difficult for you to tell whether it was her or someone else unless you could, like, be more sure how she died. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You are not the person to be looking into that.
Ashram, in that case, we'd probably call Stia over as the best medicus person around and say, this body did not die here.
Okay. Stio, if you want to look into this, then give me a cunning roll for your medicus, please.
Scrya was about to lambast you because I'm pretty sure everyone in this room died due to falling rocks, but I'll take a look. Cunning, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
That is not terrible. It is a 6. And it beats my cunning, which is 11.
Okay. Yes, this woman died by a severe blunt force trauma to the back of her head. You would be shocked if she had not died by either the initial collapse or fragments of rock striking her. Which leads to the obvious conclusion that someone dragged her body out of the rubble and then perhaps scattered little bits of rock and dust on it.
That's right. After careful deliberation, I have come to the conclusion that this one died by getting a rock to the noggin. Now, she wouldn't have got up from that. So if you're saying she's been moved, then that happened after she died.
She did not die here. Or, I mean, maybe she's been moved multiple times, but look at this rock, look at these rocks. This is not the same. This is not the same.
Ascarai, my friend, can you see any tracks? Is there any other evidence of them being moved?
Tracks would be exceptionally difficult in that everything is covered with a layer of ash and dust that is constantly falling. I would say it's literally probably up to your ankle, almost up to your ankles. Like, it would be impossible to tell what happened here half an hour ago.
Yeah. There's too much debris falling for tracks. Perhaps we could find... I mean, this kind of wound has got to leave a good amount of blood. Maybe there's some blood around that doesn't have a body corresponding to it, but even
in
that's
this
a long
mess,
shot.
Yeah, even in this mess, you're the one who's going to be fighting it, not me. Matt, just to humor my conspiracy theorying here, with where we spotted the elf at the beginning of this, is there a world in which the elf could have been the one who moved the body? Like, just from the temporality of the situation?
Yeah, he would have to have been very fast. But yes, like, you lost sight of him when you went to save the children from the horses. So all during that, and during kind of the fight between the giants and Saldonio and Alindra, you didn't have eyes on him, but he would have had to get in there, presumably be unseen by Esmeralda, have moved the body, and then to come out. Or, of course, he could have done it before you arrived. Sure.
Look, In
as
hushed
indeed
tones, I
anyone
suppose.
who was around could have. You know what I mean? So
It could have been the elf Ascry, but it could have been anyone. Plenty of other creatures in here with ill intent, it seems.
So
Can I have a look around at bodies to see if there looks to be anyone missing?
So
from
you
who
want to
we
do a
know.
more general look around of the entire cathedral?
Yes.
Okay, that's going to take a little while. And are you going to wander off and do that on your own, or are other people going to do that?
I'm going to start wandering off, but before I go, I will explain. I'm going to see if there's anyone missing,
Mhm.
just in case there was someone who may have known what was about to happen.
Okay.
Perhaps
Yeah.
someone from the inside was more likely than someone coming in from the outside.
Aaron, about half of your bits are about to fall out. I'm going to go with you.
Okay.
we're missing, by my count, 4 bodyguards, the cathedral manager and his aides.
Mhm.
Okay, then perhaps look for some sort of rectory in the
Yeah.
outside areas.
Yeah.
Um,
The count of yeah. Okay. Elindra, are you remaining by Ascarai? And Ascarai, are you like looking, because you've obviously have seen this about the bodies? Are you doing anything further with these bodies?
I think Astro would definitely search this body, which is suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the head, the
Okay.
those 2 bodies would be searched.
Okay. I'll give you the boring one first. Well, no, actually, you know what? Give me a vigilant roll.
Okay. That is a 16, which just makes it.
Okay. So the liturg, presumably conducting the ceremony, is literally wearing nothing but robes and undergarments. Nothing else at all. There is a sign of Prios around his neck. That's it.
Okay.
The body that's been moved, she is wearing some novices of certain kind of roles within the church actually wear. A lot of theurgs wear kind of brown, yellow, orange robes. She's wearing blue ones, but you have seen this before. Like, you think it's probably some kind of like specific role, but you're not sure what. But not like a like, oh, that's a just like you've seen a fair few novices wear kind of these clear blue robes, presumably meant to emulate the sky that Prios dwells in. Inside her robe, the woman is carrying a long, thin dagger with an ornamented handle, and hidden in one of her boots is a leather pouch containing 4 shiny gold coins with no mint marks whatsoever. But even more interesting than this is the dagger's ornamentation. The button on its hilt is decorated with a golden bird of prey, which seems to be diving, mounted on a polished sanguine stone. Could you give me, or both, if Lindra, are you still standing there? Yeah.
Sure.
Both of you give me a cunning roll. Ascarai at, let's say, -4, and Elindra at -3.
That is a fail for Elindra.
Astro rolled a 4, which actually just makes it.
Elindra, you feel like you recognize it from somewhere. Ascarai, you are shocked to discover that you recognize an Ambrian noble house sigil. And you recognize it because you were at the Viara outpost, and you recognize it from the Viara outpost's inn sign. This is the symbol of House Viara, who, it's fair to say, this group now has a rather complicated history with.
Yeah.
In that you saved their outpost just outside Karvosti, but you were also recently involved with the Lightbringer nuking one of the members of the house, and indeed his sister was in charge of the Templars that drove people out of the Sun Church on Karvosti. So And also, like, if you mention this in any way to Alindra can tell you the House Viara is the second most powerful house in Ambria after Kohinoor.
Holy shit.
So is this a bodyguard disguised as a novice?
Or an assassin? And this body has been tampered with. If this has this been planted? Has something worse been taken off of it? Oh, this is a mess, but I'm going to take this dagger and these coins.
Do that. I think we need to do a head count or a whatever parts we can find count.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump to the others who are doing a circuit of the cathedral. As you are doing so, can you give me both give me another vigilant roll, please? Yeah, Arendar. Okay, you can see. You basically have looked around to where there are some bodies. You can see that there are what look like two bodies along each side of the light yard, two to the south and two to the north. And then you can see over by the northeast of the crater, which is kind of moving further towards the entranceway, you can see that there are maybe another group of bodies. So basically, the cathedral runs east-west, right? And there are bodies along the north wall, bodies along the south wall, and a group of bodies to the northeast of the crater. You can also see that over the bodies to the north wall, there is some rather unpleasant-looking masonry that could do with being shot down by Ascarai. Or you could try throwing a rock and doing it.
If I throw a rock and knock the masonry down, is it going to fall down on the bodies we want to look at?
No,
or-
just kind of nearby.
I think I've got a pretty good aim.
Okay, then give me an accurate roll.
Okay.
An accurate roll outside of combat, the rarest of things.
Oh my god. That is a fail. That is 17 over 15.
Yeah, no.
I hate to be that. Can I try? But if I see Arendar,
I think this
if
is
I see Arendar flub this.
This is one of those rare occasions where I will allow someone else to make the roll, not least because it might lead to a fun, interactable roleplay moment where you mock Arendar. So,
I'm going to get ahead of you there and preload the mocking. Like, Aaron,
Okay.
what are you doing?
I'm trying to knock down that masonry.
Oh,
it's
for God's sake.
It's holding on by a thread. I could probably hit it with another rock.
Your arms
I just need to
are
find a
made
bigger
for
one and
small
throw it harder.
swords. Give me. I'll pick up a piece of masonry and have a go myself. And that is a success, but only just.
fair enough. Yeah, you knock the rubble down, it cascades down the side of the wall, and now the bodies to the north side are safe to investigate.
If you want property damage done, you come to me first, Aaron, yeah?
You should throw things more often, Steo.
I tried.
Okay, are we taking a look at those bodies over there, or are we kind of like proceeding round and looking? We're just gonna take a look.
I'm just gonna.
I think like after if the three options are given to Steo, this kind of not really odd one out, but definitely the northeast one is kind of the one I'm more interested in.
Yeah.
The northwest even, yeah.
Okay, so you've knocked down the stuff by the north side.
Yeah.
Are you going
So
to
we're
just take
starting on the north.
are you going to take a glance at those and then move on, so that you're not going to fully investigate? You're just going to take a glance at those bodies and then move on to the northeast. Is that the idea?
For my part, I kind of just want to confirm identity.
Okay, so you just wander over there and take a quick glance enough to do that, and then wander onwards. Okay.
Yep. for now.
So there are 3 bodies along the north wall. 2 of them are quite close together. One of them is a little apart from the others. The 2 close together are almost certainly the honor guard of Fable. They are clan folk. They are wearing very similar but less ostentatious clothing to him, and they were both armed with weapons. The other individual, by contrast, is wearing quite well, quite well crafted, dark Ambrian clothing. I'm trying to
Give me just a quick second there, Aaron. I'm going to take a look at this one. The Ambrians tend to have more coin on them.
No one believes you're that much of a bastard.
They're dead. They can't spend it.
Looting corpses in a church.
It's one of the only ways we get paid.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me. Okay, so you're just taking a closer look at that.
Yeah, I'm taking a closer look at the Ambrian. Yeah.
Okay. So a number of things. First, can you give me a cunning roll at +2?
Yes,
Okay.
I can.
You recognize this man.
Oh no.
You recognize him from your time on Carvosti. You don't know his name, but you recognize him as someone you saw multiple times at the High Chieftain's Hall, or in and around the High Chieftain's Hall. And once when the High Chieftain came out and did like a sort of like, not a tour of Carvosti, but kind of went to speak to various people, he was accompanying him. And you remember thinking at the time, it's odd that an Ambrian should be among the High Chieftain's, immediate inner circle, as he's taking a stroll around Carvosti. But this man was, and here he is. He's very dead. He is wearing like a very thin Ambrian kind of overcoat with a fur-lined barbarian jacket underneath it.
This is one of Tharaban's men. We saw him. He was on Carvosti with us. He must have been an attaché with them. Well, I saw him on Carvosti.
Did we see him with Tharaban when Tharaban had an audience with us after all of the other Ambrians had been evicted?
You saw him outside the throne room, but he wasn't in there when Tharaban was talking to you.
But he was still allowed on Carvosti.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can both of you roll vigilant, please?
One.
Okay. You have noticed, Arendar, that this body is not buried underneath rubble, but instead kind of crumpled with broken legs, broken hips, broken spine, kind of a bit out from the wall. You look up and see the remnants of what used to be a balcony overhead.
I don't think this man was crushed.
Not you two.
I think
In
he
a room
fell.
full of fallen rocks.
I'll point out the balcony. I think he fell onto the rocks. I've seen climbing injuries, Theo.
Who gets blown into a crater after a massive explosion? Okay. It's all the more reason to search him then.
Okay.
I'm going to rifle through this gentleman.
Yeah. Can you give me a vigilant roll, please?
That is another solid success. I'm pretty sure. I'll double check vigilance. I am not vigilant enough to see. Actually, no, it's a fail. My vigilant is 9, but my elderly procced today.
Okay. In that case, all you find on his body is in the inside pocket of that fur trim barbarian coat is a key with an attached wooden badge that has the letter X on it.
I'll be having that key to the X mansion, if you do please.
Okay.
Esmeralda, I don't think knew he was here, unless she was counting him as one of the bodyguards.
I mean, that I don't know if he'd have been officially a bodyguard, but he would have. I suspect he was here on official business. I don't think his demise is in line with what we've been expecting. Let's take a look at the other bodies down the hall a bit, because I just want to see if there's any odd ones out here.
Okay. So are you while this is happening, Askarai and Alindra and Revelia, back at the center, do you feel you've kind of exhausted looking at these other bodies?
I think so, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
In which case, what are you going to investigate next? There's the bodies to the south, and there's Arendelle and Steel look like they're going over to those bodies to the northeast of the crater, and there are some more bodies directly to the south. But also, I have to imagine that Alindra's fairly interested in what's down that crater.
Yes, but she doesn't want to go down there until the whole party's ready to go down there.
That
so
sounds sensible.
I think if they're looking at bodies to the north, we'll maybe go look at the bodies to the south and just try and, like, between us get a head count and a layout.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay, as you head down to these bodies to the south, can you both give me a vigilant roll, please?
That's really a shoot.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Askarai, you managed to grab Alindra and pull her back just as she's walking under another large piece of potentially collapsing masonry. I'm assuming we're dealing with this in the back away and fire and arrow methodology.
Yeah, seems sensible.
Okay. You do so, and it collapses like a large piece of stonework, crashes onto the ground and scatters. Maybe Revelia kind of like flinches a little bit and kind of like rubs a little line of blood away from her face where part of a fragment drew blood. But then you arrive at the bodies. They are two individuals in Panzer uniforms, high-ranking Panzer uniforms. It would very much surprise you if these were not Esmeralda's honor guard.
Okay. I mean, I think we might take a closer look at it given what we've already found, but seems all above board.
Sure. If you're going to take a closer look, do you want to give me a vigilant roll?
Sure.
Should we both do that?
If you're both doing it, then go ahead.
I did fail. That's an 18.
I succeeded.
Okay. You find nothing you would consider untowards about their bodies or about the things on their bodies. They're both carrying weapons, as you would expect them to be. They have no personal effects on them whatsoever.
Because they turned up to work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we found our Ambrian bodyguards then. So what on earth is that novice about?
Yeah, who's... I don't think we even begin to understand this enough to know who may have had an interest in moving that person or doing anything to that person. There's too much going on.
Speaking of too much going on, Arendar and Steo, you managed to negotiate around the north edge of the crater and find yourself in an area where 3 individuals seem to have kind of been coming out of a what seems to be a small collapsed room on the side of the cathedral where they kind of half got out and then more of the roof seems to have come down on top of them. They are wearing kind of very basic Sun Temple robes, kind of what very practical day-to-day ones. And there are 3 bodies there, all male, all very much dead.
Well, I think that's the cathedral staff accounted for then, isn't it? I don't see any reason why we should spend too much extra time searching these ones, Aaron, unless something catches your eye.
For some reason, I was only expecting 2, but
Esmeralda said there was a cathedral manager and 2 aides.
I see. Okay. No, well,
Think of all the things we've seen today. This one makes the most sense. Tragic though it is.
Are we going to investigate it further?
I will. It was their cathedral that got collapsed, at least. So,
Okay. Then anyone having a look at these bodies, can you give me a vigilant roll, please?
here 70% of all cathedral meteorite strikes are happen inside a threat. That's a fail.
Okay. Steo sounds like he's maybe not bothering. Is that
Yeah, I think Steo is going to do the roleplay thing and has voiced not being interested in the matter. So,
okay. This sounds like a point at which people would reconvene, perhaps further towards the center of the cathedral, maybe on the edge of the crater. Okay, you will back over to each other, and after, just in case anyone didn't note, the Esmeralda said that there would be 12 people inside the cathedral, and you have found 12 bodies.
well, that's right. You're not going to believe this. We find another weird death.
What kind of weird death?
Do you recall Faraban's Ambrian attaché from Carvosti? Well, if you don't remember him, he's over there, face down, having fallen from a balcony.
I'm enjoying Stephen's wrinkled brow.
Yeah. So he was not expected to be there.
He would.
You were told 12 people were in the cathedral taking part in the ceremony.
All right, I'm trying to work this out now. Right, there was including Esmeralda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Esmeralda's been accounted for. Thabor's been accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
The liturg who was performing the ceremony, we found.
Mm-hmm.
We found two people that, for the sake of argument, I'm going to say were novice robes.
Yep, which she
You
mentioned.
found 2 Ambrian bodyguards, 2 barbarian bodyguards. So that's up to 9. 3
Cathedral workers.
cathedral workers, and this other Ambrian.
Hang
Oh,
on.
so he's a +1.
Oh no, sorry, not counting Esmeralda.
Right.
Oh,
Okay. So was the Ambrian attaché, had Esmeralda mentioned?
No, but she did list 12 people.
And she also mentioned three bodyguards for Faraband, didn't she?
Yeah.
No, 2 bodyguards for Tharabas.
Oh,
Bodyguards.
Oh. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is a hangnail then, so we have to figure out who the 12th person was.
So there's 1 extra and
You
1.
should
too
know who
few
the 12th person
actors.
was.
Was it me?
She gave you 12 people involved in the ceremony and said there should
Yeah.
be 12 people inside. You found 12 bodies.
Right, but one of them we know is no longer in the building, right? She's gone. So if she said there were 12 people there, we'd expect to find
Not
them.
including her.
Right.
Not including her. So there are
Who
12
did
people
she-
in there. So
Who did
So-
she say?
This is all.
Oh, was Saldonio supposed to be there?
So why were there 12 bodies?
So there's an extra body. So okay,
Because Saldonio is not in the cathedral.
the guy who's fallen, the attaché, is an extra person.
Yes.
Mhm.
And one of the novices appears to be more than meets the eye.
and Saldonio is the only one that we believe has survived, that we know of, survived the initial impact, which means he may have been the one who moved the novice.
I mean, maybe. It's possible.
It's possible, but also could be that.
It took you about 15 minutes to reach the cathedral. There was a large, and then it took you another 10 to get inside the cathedral. There was a considerable amount of time for anyone to have moved that body. You know, it was only moved a few feet away. What I'm saying is, don't necessarily. I just feel like we're very much going, it's either the elf or Saldonio, and because someone's not there doesn't mean that it's one of the people who is there. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure. Within getting in and dragging body and getting out of the cathedral, then there were probably several dozen people in and around the square. And
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, all the people who became fire possessed for one, and then there are other people fleeing from them. What
Yeah.
I'm saying is,
we're in the
Don't-
middle of a
don't-
city here.
yeah, I'm just warning against chicken in a caging Saldonio and the elf.
Did you search?
I'm not saying it wasn't them.
Did you search this Ambrian attaché to the Yedisa clan nobles?
yeah, I did. Didn't find much. Wait, no, I did. I found something. I found this produces the key with the X on it.
Okay.
Second time we've come across a key without a door. Bloody useless things.
So I'm trying to remember. Did you go for a sweep? You started doing a sweep before we looked at the novices, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we found something
Yeah.
unusual with one of the novices. Under those robes, there's some unmarked coins and this. Show the dagger.
From
Oh,
House Liara,
Yep.
for what it's worth.
They keep showing up in all sorts of places, don't they?
Bloody politics.
Maybe they were trying to disrupt the ceremony then. It would make sense, I imagine.
Askrai, this was the one with the weird pattern of gumph on them, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, maybe
the one that been
it
moved.
was it might have been a plant.
Could be. Absolutely could be. I think it seems almost certain that somebody with some kind of ulterior motive was alive in here after the meteor fell.
We should make haste, see what we can get out of this crater, and then get the hell out of here.
Agreed.
Okay. The crater is much deeper than its width would suggest, but the sides of it are rough and scalable, and still quite warm to the touch as you start making your way down. And it goes probably around 20 meters down altogether and takes up quite a lot of room. You can see a number of rocks that are still smoldering at the very bottom of the crater, which I'm presumably you're not too interested in. The sunlight streaming down from the gaps in the roof above is enough to reveal a multitude of partially collapsed openings in the sides of the crater. There are two large uppermost openings that you can see used to be kind of rooms on the side of the crater. You can see barrels and crates inside them, some of which are now wrecked and destroyed, a couple of which are still kind of like gently burning. Further down near the base of the crater, you can also see some kind of a couple of tunnels that look to be mostly occluded with large rock that's kind of tumbled down on the top of them. But in the middle of those, about halfway down the crater, around 10 meters down, you can see a relatively intact opening of a passageway from which light is coming. The entrance is almost entirely free of rubble and debris.
That's kind of...
Just for the avoidance of doubt, Matt, that's the entrance, right? Like
where you saw the light coming from. Yeah.
And also the place where the witch site has shown up something different.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Whatever there is to find, it's down there.
Are you saying that out loud?
Yes, and I will say there is something different about the air in there. We should be careful.
Okay. Are we making our way to that entrance then?
Ashra is going to pull his bow out, but yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It actually says it's roughly 5 meters down, so I am a bit wrong about that, but that's fine. It's 5 meters down. As you can negotiate your way to it fairly easily and kind of like scrabble, kind of like over the rock and find your way inside. Can everyone give me a vigilant test, please? Alindra, you don't need to.
Cool. Should I roll for reveal?
Yeah, go for it. All of those of you who succeeded, so Arendar and Askarai, and Elindra also will feel an odd chill wash over your skin as though the air is somehow charged with power. Now that you are in this, Elindra, your witch sight, even the rudimentary form you have a more specific feeling. A feeling that powerful, protective, mystical energies have recently been dispelled from here, probably as the meteor destroyed parts of a protective ritual's physical components.
Trying to think how she would try to share that information. There was something powerful down here protecting the cathedral that the meteors have destroyed. This was the target, the epicenter.
I would also like everyone to roll a cunning roll. I'm going to say it's at -3 because none of you have pointed it out. So I want to give your characters a chance to realize it, but I'm going to punish your characters because of your failures as humans.
Does the party know that Alindra has witch sight?
I think it has come up.
Elindra's talked weird about locations before, for sure.
Okay.
I don't think we've ever like sat down and had a discussion about like, so hey, what's that weird thing with you?
Elindra's never
That's
shown you
right.
her character sheet.
We were there when Furia was giving you like a mystical cheerleading thing. So I think as far as Aaron is concerned, it's like, oh, Elindra's got a weird Templar magic site. Because it's definitely a Templar thing.
Yeah. Okay, everyone failed their cunning rolls there, right?
Ask where I made it. I rolled a 3.
Okay, that's kind of appropriate with you being the tracker and all. You stand there paused a second in this open entranceway to what is like a very like it's definitely like it's an Ambrian corridor, built corridor. It's like an intentional presumably sub basement of the cathedral, and you suddenly kind of like look around you, lean over the crater, maybe look down at the ones below choked in rubble, look above at the ones partially choked with rubble and burning, and then look directly below the corridor down in the crater where you can see quite a bit of collection of detritus, chunks of stone. I mean, isn't it kind of weird that this entrance isn't covered in rubble? And there's a bunch of rubble below it in the crater.
Has someone moved rubble out of this? Or has it been protected from rubble from the beginning?
I mean, maybe there's maybe what the Lindra is talking about, this protection, maybe that did it. But it's just notable.
What Saldonio said when he died, was it just Aaron who heard that?
It was, so I'm happy for Aaron to have shared that with people since. Would you like me to repeat it, or the like relevant areas of it?
The keywords that I got were the prisoner, the eternal night, Artel, and revenge.
His exact words were the prisoner, you must, Prios, he is free, the eternal night, Artel, it was Artel, his revenge, promise me, find them, stop them, my fault. So, you are in a corridor that leads further into the ground, away from the crater. A corridor with 3 doors. There is one straight ahead, which is wide open, letting out the light that has illuminated this corridor from above, from viewing it from above the crater. And there are 2 other doors, one on the left side of the corridor, one on the right, and they're both shut. There is nothing in the corridor itself other than a lot of dust and ash.
I'm gonna try the door on the left.
Okay. Let me just make sure I know what that is. Okay, yeah. So you open the door on the left, and behind it is what appears to be quite a cozy bedroom. The bed is big, and the pillows look soft. Clean linens and nightgowns are stored in a beautiful bureau of black-stained oak. 3 10-liter jars of fresh water are standing next to a commode with an enameled basin and a gold-mounted mirror. There are 2 paintings hanging on the wall, a half-length portrait of a middle-aged woman whose jewelry is as extravagant as her dress, and a view of a rural homestead in a sun-drenched farmland under a clear late summer sky. Can you give me a vigilant roll, please?
That is, let me double check. That is a fail.
Okay. Obviously, this is just what you get from opening the door and looking in. If you wanted to rummage,
The just for color, is that painting Alberator or is it Ambria?
I mean, it could be either. You know, both of them. When Alberator was Alberator, it looked quite a bit like Ambria. So
Yeah.
you can't.
Steel's
really tell.
not going to have a moment. Steel has already filled the role, but will do a perfunctory search for any kind of items on the table, like notebooks or anything.
Sure.
But will probably
Um,
just turn around and go.
The only thing you find of interest is a tiny piece of jewelry next to the oil lamp on the bedside table. It is a blackened silver object depicting a tubby woman surrounded by a radiant halo. You have Lawmaster, right?
I do actually.
Give me a cunning test.
Oh, that's a success. I'm so happy it is.
Steel might not be. This symbol you recognize. It is a representation of Lyra, a Prios-like sun goddess worshipped in the land of Liastra.
That's deep south, isn't it?
It's to the east of Alberator, and it's where the Dark Lords came from.
Steel will pocket that. Ascarai,
Yes.
can you search in here, see if you can find out who stayed here? Is there anything I've missed?
I'll do my best. What do you suspect?
Some old trouble.
Let's go have a look around.
Sure. Give me a vigilant roll.
That is a 5, which makes it.
You don't find anything else of significance.
There's not much here. Seems like people stayed here.
Let's try the other door. So,
Yeah, I think Lynch has already stood by the door.
Sure.
Okay. Now we'll do this one.
Mm-hmm. There is not much to see in this room other than a chandelier in the ceiling, an easel, and a desk cluttered with pots of paint, brushes, and various painting tools. Pigment powders, oil, other items for creating paint can be seen in open desk drawers, and there are 20 or so frames and rolls of canvas leaning against the far wall. There are no finished paintings in the studio, only a few vague sketches of people and buildings.
Okay.
The only other place that remains is the door that's already open where the light is coming out from.
Do any of the sketches of the buildings look like Indaros landmarks?
No.
Okay.
You can't really tell what
room.
they are. You can't really tell what they are. They're very vague. But they're definitely not buildings you recognize from Indaros.
Okay.
This is the largest chamber of this little complex. It's furnished with a dining table. There is a larder, the door of which is ajar, that looks to be well stocked with necessities and various delicacies. There's a hearth. There is a nook with 2 luxurious, though somewhat worn armchairs in. The light is emanating from an orb of glass or crystal that is standing on a tripod on the dining table and is clearly of mystical origin. On the far wall from where you entered is a robust ironclad gate with 3 large locks that have mystical runes etched into them. On the wall, there are, among other things, a portrait of a young, dark-haired, radiant woman with a strange expression on her face. Her mouth flashes a dazzling smile, but the eyes show nothing but defiance. Can everyone give me cunning rolls, please? Steo, you can take a +3.
Elindra passed.
1.
Okay. Elindra, you at first glance think that the portrait is of the Sun Duchess. Arindar, you do the same, and then you realize it is not Esmeralda. It is a woman who looks very, very much like her, but far younger, maybe in her late teens or so. It's definitely not Esmeralda, but it looks very much like her.
Would it be common in Ambria for people to have seen what the Queen looks like under the mask? No. Okay, there's not. There are no depictions of her.
Supposedly disfigured during the war, right?
Yeah. I mean,
she was supposedly horribly scarred during her imprisonment by the Dark Lords.
I mean, from before that happened, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, people will have known what she looked like before that if they saw her. Yeah.
Okay, but not like there's not paintings.
There aren't. No.
Like it was.
No.
You'd have to have like been in her presence at some point.
Yes.
Does this place give anyone else fancy prison vibes?
I'll consult the mystical forces behind my own eyeballs.
I mean, your witch site certainly wouldn't give you any information regarding that.
No.
And this
Sorry, I was going to say this presumably looks like the thing that I saw from above. Like this is the epicenter of.
Yeah, what you perceived from above was definitely the broken mystical wards over this place.
Okay.
And they are over this place, not the cathedral.
Yeah. So,
and the gate at the back, is there anything? You mentioned like locks and mystical runes. Is there anything visible through that, or is it fully opaque?
No. It's a complete iron braced wooden door.
And it's closed.
Very much so.
What if this is the way into this place? And the meteor was the alternative escape route.
Yeah.
And as the mage said, something much worse was sprung from here.
Those things all seem to point towards that conclusion. I guess we can't know for sure, but like, yes, there were wards here. Yes, someone clearly lived here.
I don't know if this gate has a keyhole, but I feel like we have to at least try this key that we found on this gate.
It's got 3 locks, doesn't it?
Not even remotely. The key looks like a normal door key. These locks are like big things, and they all have mystical runes on them. Like,
where's Degesto when you need him?
Yeah.
Are the business end of the locks like pointing towards us?
Yes.
Does this? Okay, so the side of the gate that we're looking at looks kind of like the outside of something.
Not necessarily. I mean, a lot of like very sealed like doorways will have locks on both sides.
Okay, so we can't be sure that this is not the inside. It could be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ask me to take a look around this room as closely as he can for any.
Give me a vigil.
Items. Okay. That is a 1.
You are absolutely certain there is nothing more of interest to be found in this room. The only exception being that like crystal / glass orb on the table. You don't think it maybe does, and you don't know if it does anything more than just provide light. It's definitely a mystical, valuable object.
Okay.
Aaron, remind me, what was the name the mage said when he died?
Artel.
Steo, you know what? Give me a cunning roll.
I was just thinking about that.
I was also just thinking about that and searching my records. That's a 9. Is it enough? He asks. Cunning, yeah? That is enough.
the name rings a chime in your mind. Something about the war, something about some horrific battle, something about an Ordo mage who made a mistake and cost the lives of half of his own army along with the enemies. Perhaps even something about rocks crashing from the sky. You can't be certain. You certainly weren't there, and you remember being quite glad of that. These things come at you through a mist. You have spent a great many years trying to forget everything from that time.
Okay. And a blasted figurine of a goddess from a place common with the Dark Lords. Oh, I don't like it. Actually, do you know what? I'm not going to sit on this. Anton, I'll take out the little pendant I found.
And Tom is not with you.
Oh, of course, Anton's up the ring. I'll hold it up then. This is one of the Eastern goddesses, a sun goddess, potentially tied to behaviors of the Dark Lords. This Artel fella reminds me of war stories of a reckless mage. And you know what?
You have a feeling that Artel was supposedly on your side, though.
Yeah.
But you remember some controversy surrounding him, but you don't know what it was.
Yeah. A reckless mage in the wars. Not a Dark Lord, but stinks. Stinks. I hate this city already. No offense, Aaron.
So
None taken.
So that's the most heretical thing I've seen in a while. In quite a crowded field.
I am happy treating with elves and dwarves and all kinds of creatures from the forest as the day is long. But these bastards, anything to do with the Dark Lords, I'm not playing around.
And this is like the center of Prios worship as far as I've seen.
And it still gives me posh jail vibes. The meteor was sent to spring the jail.
The temple at Thistlehold had a prison in the basement. Not as nice as this one, but maybe that's a Sun Temple habit.
I would be remiss if I did not point out that time is ticking forwards.
Let's not mention this and let's get a move on.
Okay. Just for expediency's sake as well, if you feel like you've investigated the cathedral as much as you can, there's certainly nothing you've seen more about the cathedral than what you've seen, unless you have ideas about what you would like to do.
Has anyone actually looked in the larder?
Yeah, we've done a vigilant roll. There's nothing in. Yes, we have investigated the rooms. We've rolled vigilant in all the rooms, and nothing extras has turned up.
Asper's going to poke this light source, and
sure,
if it's of the size to take with us, we'll take it with us.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Just to give you an overview, because obviously, like, you can't think about the space you've occupied in the same way that your characters can. The south side of the square, all that has in now is Esmeralda, the Panzars, whoever else has arrived, Giants, Fisher, Elf. Right? Those are all on the south side of the square. The east side of the square, where the horses were, Saldonio's body, you've investigated there. The west side of the square, you came through, there was nothing there. You have not looked in the north side of the square. I merely say this because I can imagine, because I haven't described it, which means you aren't aware of it, but your characters would be. So that is all.
Is the north the direction that Saldonia's attacker went?
Yes. Well, kind of northeast.
Yeah. Okay. I think I should look at the north of the cathedral before we return to the Duchess.
Okay.
Yes. We also need to look in the fissure at some point, but somehow I feel like our reputation will allow us access to that at some point.
Somehow I think we should try and stop that reputation from sending us down any more cursed holes.
If Ascarai has taken the orb, Elindra will be sticking close to Ascarai and kind of attempting to have us leave this place as quickly as possible.
Okay. You leave out of the corridor. The cold feeling on the surface of some of your skin kind of sliding away as you clamber up the surface of the still warm crater. You make your way up to the cathedral and you find a rift in the side of it on the north wall, which is not very difficult at all. And you find yourself in the north part of the north part of the square around the Cathedral of Martyrs. There is not as much going on in this part of the square as there was in others. In fact, there's only a couple of things I'd point out. First is that over to the west, a larger group of individuals have arrived on the edge of the square. It looks like about 20 panzars accompanying 4 young theurgs and an older middle-aged theurg in very rich robes, very fancy-looking robes. He's wearing one of those kind of sun masks, so he looks like he's probably quite high-ranking. But they're just kind of setting up and looking around. The panzars are spreading out, trying like keep the theurgs and as safe as they don't really seem to be coming towards the cathedral. They're like observing and trying to maybe set up security, but not necessarily actively entering the area too far yet. The other is that a stretch to the north of the wall of the cathedral, around, I do have a thing here, about 100 meters to the north, there is a large scattering of dead individuals. They do not look to have been hit by debris. There are a number of, I mean, without getting closer, you can't tell, but a number of the bodies are still kind of smoking.
Fire possessed. I wonder who dealt with these.
I mean, if they were, you would imagine it would be people killed by fire possessed who would be smoking.
Oh, okay. Victims of fire possessed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Probably a band of them moved out to the city. Hope the guard managed to catch them.
I can well imagine that they're roaming the city by now.
The city is not unguarded.
That's going to have to be somebody else's problem right now.
Oh, are we getting closer to have a better look?
I think we are obliged to, really, aren't we?
Okay. So what you find is, as I say, there are a number of individuals. There are probably 4 or 5 people who look to have been cut down with blades, but also you see a number of them have kind of like very kind of like forceful burnt scorch marks on them, that are like where like parts of their body have literally been kind of like burned away intensely, in a way you would not necessarily approach. Like the fire possessed just kind of like set bits of you on fire. This doesn't look like that. This looks like extremely hot material has like corroded and burned away entire parts of their body. Most of them are dressed in very normal Indaros clothing, some of it fancier than others, some of it quite poor. But in the center of those individuals who look like that are two others who are dressed in very, but again, very, very like general clothing, but they look to have been killed in a way you would associate more with being kind of battered and burned by the fire possessed. So it looks like they killed a number of the fire possessed around them, including with. I mean, you have seen, mystics burn people away with like torrents of flame and like hot material. It looks like perhaps these two individuals had some form of mystical power and were also using blades, which they have at their sides, to defend themselves from the fire possessed, but the fire possessed did kill them. That is the way it looks to you.
I think Askari would want to search the two in the middle.
Okay.
See what they have on them.
Give me a vigilant roll, please.
That is a 6.
Okay. You find two things. Firstly, both of them have adept medallions of the Ordo Magica in chains around their necks, underneath their clothes. And secondly, is that one of them, in a belt bag underneath his scorched clothes, carries a rolled up letter, which I will display for you now. Secure prisoner together. M and L directly to Barlack with the prisoner. S and F cover plant tracks. Fina's bakery cellar entrance. Follow B's directions to hideout. Wait no more than 4 glasses. If A does not show, leave city with prisoner. Chris, could you give me a cunning roll, please?
If I fail this, I object because I think I've got a good idea of what's going on here. I did actually fail it.
Okay. In that case, you're the one presumably holding the letter, Askari. Do you want to make me a vigilant roll?
Okay. Vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 4.
Okay. As you tilt the better to get a better look at it through the grainy light over the square, you see that the letter has a watermark on the paper, a diving bird of prey inside a shield-shaped frame. The sigil, again, of House Viara.
2 plants? No.
Is this all Viara? Is every part of this House Viara?
Okay. You know what? I think we'll leave that there because I feel like that's a good cliffhanger to leave us on over the festive period. So there we go. Lovely stuff. Get all those comments in chat, please, and John will rack them up for our attention. In the meantime, this will be the last Symbaroum stream of the year. I believe Call of Cthulhu is going ahead on Monday, at the very least, I think. I could be wrong in that, but I think that's the case. But both will be back in the new year. Hopefully, Yellow King will also return sometime in the new year, although albeit maybe on a less frequent schedule, because it's I really love running it, but oh my god, it destroys me. So we got to be a little more hesitant about doing that on a weekly or fortnightly basis. Otherwise, check below for all the links you would normally expect. We've got stuff. Go look at the stuff and watch the stuff. Okay. Could we have things posted up, please, John? 42. I'm guessing that the final reveal of Symbaroum is that you've played through an Indiana Jones fanfic. Because of all the craters.
You're not wrong.
Holes.
Not just that. There's a fair amount of magic rings going around. I'm just saying.
The magic rings in Indiana Jones?
No, but there's other fantasy properties which this might, in an unfair gaze, be a fanfic of.
Sure.
I'm sort of waiting for a rolling boulder down a corridor set piece, though. Or for Ascarai to, like, skate a door down some steps whilst firing arrows.
Oh, God, no.
I feel like our escape
He'd
from
make the rolls.
the Tomb of Dying Dreams could have been a Indiana
Yeah.
Jones piece.
Yeah.
That was Indiana Jones moment for sure. What we got next, John?
And sec.
Rana, hello. I have no prior experience executing people, but I am very big. Do you have any job openings for me? And the Queen said yes.
I mean, presumably the main qualifications for being an executioner, right? Is like a strong stomach, a steady hand, and then just to be like as big and imposing and like status.
Yeah,
granting.
I think that's the thing. But also, you know, if you are larger than human and can wield a massive sword, then it's got to be a help on the old, you know, getting through the neck in one blow.
Yeah.
I feel like even if he's not actually good at the job, he looks like he'd be good at the job. So that's usually enough to dissuade people from wanting to be executed.
Yeah, you'd hope that by having a big, intimidating executioner, that would help with the old, stopping people from doing things warranting execution.
It's a better show than a little kind of roly-poly man with a shank, right?
Yeah. Although, of course, history and sociology both tell us that the threat of execution does not in any way affect the amount of people committing a crime warranting execution. So,
no. But it's like, is it about deterrent or is it about the status of the person that employs an executioner?
Sure, yeah. I'm the Queen. I've got a big man to hold a big sword.
Right.
Yeah. Next. Steve, got a hole, fissure, or chasm? We'll delve it. Rock and stone.
Spelunkas Incorporated.
Immediate follow-up.
Just imagining the TV adverts now. Yeah, like the ones in Ghostbusters.
That's literally the next comment.
Really?
When the Queen's like is it the Queen's sister who recognizes us?
Esmeralda.
I feel like that's kind of cool. It's not all bad.
Mate, you have a weird. That's fucking dangerous, is what that is. Oh.
You're the whole.
Hey, isn't it cool when high and mighty people with almost infinite power know who you are?
Exactly.
Categorically not.
We're going to start getting calls from like across Ambria at some point. Like, hello, yeah, we've I mean, not this.
We've got a hole.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, there is shit phone reception on the shores of Lake Volgoma.
And you'll get all unwarranted ones as well, like, hello, my name's Dobbin, and I've got a well that needs looking into. You know, like it won't all be calls to adventure.
Yeah.
Next. Yerevan is the capital of Armenia, yes. After I said that, I realized, if it's a city-state in Civ, then it's not just a city-state in Civ, it must be an actual place with actual history and actual people living there.
That we just
now I know that.
Glossed over.
Yeah.
In a aside.
To my credit, Yerevan and Yadisa are similar in a number of ways phonetically.
They're both Y places.
Yes. They both have multiple E's. Next, with apologies to the people of Yerevan. Steve, can't wait for a sketch of Steer robbing corpses to appear on the front page of tomorrow's papers. Excellent.
I'm honestly surprised that our national reputation is as good as it is. This is it. You delve a few sinkholes and you can get away with anything.
You do remarkably little scavenging from the dead. It could be argued in point of fact that you could do with a little more scavenging from the dead.
It's come up before from other people skilled at the game commenting in YouTube that we are poor because we have decided to be poor, friends.
Yeah, because like it's one thing. Obviously, you don't maybe want to like rinse the body of Grandmaster Seldonia while what City Watch you're watching. But like, there's been multiple occasions where ne'er-do-wells who have tried to murder you have been murdered back, and you haven't rinsed through their pockets for anything. So,
I think I feel like we've been making a conscious effort to like improve on that front, but like,
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah.
the opportunities
the
aren't always there.
part of the problem is that whenever we like, there's always escalating stakes whenever we're attacked. Like, it's hard to rifle through someone's pockets when you've also just like had a meteor dropped on you or nearby, or
And in any
everything's
case,
on
like,
fire, or
this place where you are is again not perhaps the best place to be doing this kind of thing. 'Cause it's
No.
like, oh, I robbed the corpses of nobles and priests who
Of the Duchess's husband to be.
yeah, exactly. But
not anymore.
But there are an awful lot of people you kill who aren't that. So yeah.
We stole your fancy light bulb from that hidden prison you're not supposed to tell anyone about.
Yeah.
The orb of definitely not causing us any plot trouble in the future.
Sam, feel like Pippin right now. Yeah, just grabbing the nearest orb. What could possibly come of that of any negative consequence?
Orbs
But I
used by
wanna know-
Dark Lords, probably
Yeah.
fine. I'll just pick it up and take it with me.
Did you turn it off before you picked it up, or is your bag glowing now?
I'm actually going to investigate because it is a thing that has like a it's a mystical object that has a thing.
I assumed it was still on because I don't think we've got anybody. That
It is.
knows
It emits a warm, comfortable, and never-ending shine.
Never ending.
Yeah.
Good luck hiding that.
I mean, if you cover it up with fabric, it will not thick fabric.
Gandalf's cloak.
Yeah.
Be fine.
Yes, if you cover it up with, as you say, Gandalf's cloak, then it'll be fine. 42 says it sounds radioactive, so enjoy that. Next, please. 42. The main qualification of an executionist, executrix, is having a strong stomach and not minding that you will be a pariah. Yep. No one's gonna like you. So there we go. Because they used to be anonymous as well. If we're talking about these kind of times of, doing this, like famously the guy who chopped Charles I's head off was anonymous. Because no one would admit to doing it, so they had to hire someone on the quiet.
It's harder if you're a giant, right? Like,
yeah,
you could wear the mask, but it's not going to narrow it down much.
Yeah, I believe a lot of modern day kind of like partially automated executions now effectively don't have an executioner. It's done via automation in some way. But I know back in like the 70s and 80s and 90s, again, it was like basically people would answer an advert and do it anonymously on a 1-by-1 basis. So they would only be allowed to do it once. And almost as if there's something wrong with it and people shouldn't be doing it. But who am I to judge or let my politics shine out on stream? Okay, then.
I know there was the thing when they had firing squads. There was a thing that only maximum half of them, or just under half.
No, it was
sometimes just one.
The tradition is it would be one blank.
Okay,
because you have to have enough to get the job definitely done. But
right.
The point is that everyone in the firing squad can rationalize to themselves afterwards that maybe they had the blank. Again, almost as though there's something we shouldn't be doing. There we go. Moving on to more festive things. Yes, we're off over Christmas and New Year, folks. I don't know when we'll be back yet. We will be back. Won't you worry? We'll be back. But until then, I hope everyone takes care, stays safe, and has a lovely a time as you can. Yeah. And if you find yourself with nothing to do, as many of us will, then what better way could you spend your time than going and watching your way through our YouTube library? Just do it alphabetically, all chronologically. I would say autobiographically, but that's the same as chronologically. So yeah, delve through things.
I mean, it's chronologically for us because we did them. But for the viewer, then it's in the order of how they've watched them. So just rewatch them in the order you first watched them.
I mean, only if I'm not getting drawn into this with you. So, so yeah, Steve suggests episode 1 of each series, then episode 2. Yeah, absolutely, including the one shots. So there we go. Lovely. All right, folks. I've said my well wishes, so goodbye, and we will see you in 2025. Farewell. Goodbye. Farewell.